I think the most damaging thing that I can say about that performance is that there's nothing new to talk about in terms of what's wrong. I honestly, I've probably titled this along the lines of the final straw or getting sacked in the morning. That's not me saying that Erik ten Hag should be sacked, but there's a lot of ticks in the boxes for Erik ten Hag to get sacked after that. The team selection is just wrong, in my opinion, completely wrong. We spoke about it after the Liverpool game, how finally giving the support to Mainoo that he needed in that midfield with the inclusion of Amrabat, even though I didn't think Amrabat did particularly great against Liverpool. Giving Mainoo that extra support is what allowed us to be so defensively solid, and obviously the performance of Varane, who was missing. However, I thought Kambwala was absolutely, or Kambwala should I say, was absolutely fine and didn't really put a foot wrong himself today. But the decision to put Bruno back in with McTominay instead of McTominay, I just don't understand that decision. You're going to West Ham away. Our away record is not very good, and I genuinely thought, and like I said, this might be my own delusions, but I genuinely thought, off the back of that Anfield performance, from both sides, I have to stress this, off the back of the defensive performances of both Manchester United and West Ham at Anfield this week, I really thought we would stick with the same sort of setup, have Bruno come in for McTominay, and then try and build and hit West Ham on those counter-attacks, like Liverpool were doing the other day. I know Liverpool did control different portions of the game as well, but it was all about hitting West Ham in those weak points defensively for Liverpool. And I thought if we played like that, we would get the win. And that is why I went for a 2-0 win for Manchester United. But we didn't do that. We played right into West Ham's hands. And instead, we're the ones on the end of a 2-0 defeat rather than a 2-0 win. And like I said, the problems are the problems we constantly go on about. Poor team selection, poor finishing, not good enough creatively from the midfield, and then lack of run tracking from the midfield with a sprinkle of mistake from Onana. But at what point can these same mistakes keep being made before the manager eventually gets sacked? And I know that there are individual performances, and certainly mentally, that's the sixth one that I didn't mention. Player mentality, reacting to it not going well. We go 1-0 down and they gave up again as well. So that's on them. But how many times can we keep repeating the same cycle of mistakes before the manager loses his job? And there's a lot of talk about when Radcliffe comes in the next couple of weeks that him and the team Ineos want Graham Potter to take over from Erik ten Hag. And as far as I'm concerned, they've got enough reasons to do that. They really do. I personally don't want to see Ten Hag go. I don't think we should be constantly sacking managers and trying to rebuild over and over and over again. But I think the writing's on the wall at this point. I don't quite know how he goes on surviving from this because, like I say, it's just the same mistakes over and over and over again. We should have won this game. And I mean that in regards to the fact that at the end of that first half, we should have been 1 or 2-0 up. We defended reasonably well, gave away a couple of sloppy passes in midfield, which created some half chances for West Ham. Onana had to make one fairly decent save in that first half. But other than that, we sat in relatively well, got on the ball, and when West Ham made their defensive mistakes, which we knew they would make after their performance at Anfield in midweek, we wasted them. Again, Garnacho, quite simply, has to score. There is no excuse. My dad actually pointed it out to me a couple of weeks ago. Garnacho's first touch is shocking. We used to laugh at Lukaku for an absolute shoddy first touch, but in his defence, he has a rather large frame. He's very physical, of course. I'm not saying he's fat, but he's a very big physical player, and occasionally those loose touches would come because of that. You look at Garnacho, he has no excuse for bad first touches, but you see some of the stuff that happened for him today. First touches from those little balls out from Mainoo or Evans or Kambwala, whoever was hitting those balls out to Garnacho. He was miscontrolling his first touches. He was overhitting his first touches when he was trying to go on dribbles. So it's no surprise to me that when he got slipped through, clean through one-on-one, he takes a bad touch and ultimately then misses the chance. But that's not good enough. Like, you know, we're pinning a lot of hopes on this youngster. He's a very, very talented player. I saw someone say the other day that because he scored that overhead kick against Everton, that makes him immune from criticism for the next 6 months. It absolutely doesn't. One piece of absolute brilliance cannot excuse a performance like that. You can't... just... shocking. It really is. We should have been so much more clinical in front of goal. But once again, like I say, Garnacho missed his chance. Anthony shooting too much. Bruno shooting too much. All that leads to is Rasmus Højlund getting nothing. And they put out a stat today, which I didn't know, but I probably could have guessed. Manchester United average 16 passes a game into their forward. 16 passes a game. That's not 16 balls into goal-scoring areas. That is total usage of our forward. 16 times a game. The second lowest in the Premier League. That's not acceptable. And I don't know how to say. I don't know if that's the manager. I don't know if that's the players. But that's not good enough. What is the point of spending that much money on a striker who, for all intents and purposes, I think has a lot of ability and a lot of talent. But if you're only giving him 16 passes a game, what's he supposed to do? Like, people laugh and joke about how few touches Haaland has, but he's still involved more than 16 times a game. Like, even if it's just into him and then back out wide. 16 times a game is just not acceptable. I'd be interested to know what team is worse, by the way. I'd be very interested to know what team has a lower percentage of balls into their forwards. But how are we supposed to generate goals if we're only using our forward 16 times a game? It's just not going to happen. You're basically playing with 10 men. And because of it, we're now 4 games in a row without scoring. 3-0 Bournemouth, 1-0 Bayern Munich, 0-0 Liverpool, 2-0 West Ham. 4 games in a row without scoring for the first time since 1992. 13 defeats before Christmas in all competitions. Like I said, the writing's on the wall. Like, I can't see him not getting sacked. I really don't. I think that is probably going to be the final straw for Erik ten Hag. Will they sack him over Christmas? I mean, what a Christmas present to have. But I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's just going to be a case of they'll probably wait until Radcliffe comes in before they do it. Maybe he'll have a couple more games to save his job. But to go from that performance at Anfield to change the team and then lose, that's not good enough. That really is not a good look for a manager. So we'll see what happens. And then, like I say, the players as well. The goals are just poor. Ball into Paqueta. No one's picking him up. Again, my whole point about Mainoo being isolated. If Mainoo got isolated the other day, Amrabat would then come round and cover for him. Today, when Mainoo got isolated, Paqueta had free space to do what he wanted. Brilliant ball into Bowen. Luke Shaw arguably should have been a little bit more reactive, but he's been caught out. And then, like I say, Onana, he just falls to the floor and sticks an arm out. It's, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say De Gea would have done any better. I used to moan about De Gea for that. But, you know, in terms of quality, I don't think that's good enough for a goalkeeper. You look at the Alisson save from Højlund last week, and I know Alisson is probably the best goalkeeper in the world right now. But he's out. He's big. He makes a presence. Onana just shrinks up, flaps at it, and it just bounces off of a Bowen and goes in. If your goalkeeper's strong and actually protecting their goal, there is no way Bowen can force that ball in the net. And then, like I say, the moment that goal goes in, heads drop. Attitude falls apart. No real effort to go and get an equalising goal. And unfortunately, the mistake this time happens from Kobbie Mainoo, who I thought was having a very good game. He switches off. He loses the ball in midfield, again, because he's not protected. There is no one to then cover for him. Brilliant ball from Paqueta. Brilliant touch and shot from Kudus. And he shows those Manchester United players what you should be doing in those areas of the pitch. Like, I don't really know what else I can say. It's another very, very poor performance from Manchester United. And we now fall behind West Ham in the Premier League table. It's 4 games in a row without scoring, and it's 13 defeats in all competitions. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Should Erik ten Hag be sacked after this performance? Is there any more defending that can be done for him? I don't think there is. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you very soon.